Welcome to Alberta Conservation Association's Harvest Your Own podcast, the resource for everything hunting, navigating through the field, the butcher shop, and the kitchen. Life is all about great food. Let's get started.
Welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, Brad Fenson, an avid outdoor enthusiast who has worked as a freelance journalist, photographer, and public speaker for over 3 decades. I have hunted, fished, and foraged all my life and hope to share my passion for the outdoors. Along the way, I want to encourage everyone to harvest wild proteins and enjoy the satisfaction of providing the next meal for your family. Our goal is to educate, entertain, and inspire individuals to get outdoors and create a connection between food, health, and your future meals. Welcome to Harvest Your Own. We have 3 guests on the show today. We have Sue Peters and Paul Jones from the Alberta Conservation Association. They are biologists that cover a wide range of duties. That's the best way to put it, isn't it, Sue?
Sounds good.
Yeah. What are some of the things you work on during the year?
Well, right now I am doing a lot of work with the ABHuntLog, developing that and getting that off the ground, and we've launched that early this September. I am also working on something known as the Sharp Project, which is a project where we help ranchers in Alberta maximize their wildlife habitat value and keep their land productive for ranching. And then I'm also working, and with that project, I'm working on native pollinators. So that's a bit of a new branch for Alberta Conservation Association. And a couple other projects, but those are kind of 2 of my meat and potatoes kind of projects.
Keeps you busy. And
yep.
Paul, I know that you're also very active with the Alberta HuntLog program, but you also do a lot with the antelope fencing.
Yeah, so that's sort of one of my main projects is working with pronghorn and testing different modifications to allow pronghorn to get under the fence easier because they don't like to jump for some reason, so they like to crawl under. And then, so I also work with the multi-sour project and helping Sue out a little bit too with piping plover.
Excellent. And then we have our 3rd guest that's been patiently waiting in the background, Mark Stenroos.
Hi, Brad.
Hi. Is it all right to call you the creator and developer of the iHunter app?
Yeah, that would be accurate, I suppose. Nowadays, I've got a few other team members that are, doing a lot of the other heavy lifting. But I started iHunter about 10 years ago.
Right, and some listeners might not know what iHunter is, but I've used it since it came out. I find it a very useful tool for hunting, not only to find out when legal shooting light is with sunrise, sunset, but to use waypoints. And even if I'm out of cell coverage, I still have GPS coverage of where I am with a map. There's no reason. If people are worried about getting lost in the bush, iHunter is magic.
Oh, I appreciate that, those comments, Brad, and thanks for the support.
Right. So, I think we should talk a little bit about iHunter as the tool first. There's information for weather, moon phase. You have landowner maps that can be purchased so that if you're, out goose hunting and sitting beside a field, you can see exactly who owns it. The app can store waypoints, a whole bunch of personal information.
Yeah, it can do all those things. I'd say that for Alberta users, I'd say the most useful aspect of the app is the land ownership maps and the public land subscription. So we've got just an unfathomable amount of land in Alberta that we can hunt, like public land. And in addition, there's a lot of private and conservation type lands that are available to hunt as well. But you need to know who owns what as the first step. And I think that the land ownership map overlays are pretty key for that. Kind of gone are the days where you need to have, your 36-inch rolled up map or 10 of them in the back seat of your truck. Everything is available on your phone, and you can actually see your position on that land ownership map, which makes a big difference for people.
Absolutely. I still have a Rubbermaid in my office full of landowner maps that are folded so that I could look at at least a township at a time. But
I had that up until recently, but once I just recently moved out east, so we're in Nova Scotia right now, currently, and I had to bite the bullet and get rid of most of my paper landowner maps. It just didn't make sense to ship them along with everything else.
Good. The reason I'm going through some of the history with iHunter is because it has continued to develop and offer more resources and technical help for hunters that are out there. And I'll add, it's not just for hunters. Anybody that enjoys the outdoors and likes to go on walks or track things and mark where they found specific mushrooms or berries or anything else, the app is perfect for that. But it sort of led us to where our conversation started. If anyone opens up their iHunter app and taps on the logo in the bottom right-hand corner, which is the moose head antlers, you open up a page and there's something on there called ABHuntLog.
Well, I'm sure Stu and Paul can give a little bit more detail on this, but it is, it's a partnership between Alberta Conservation Association, the University of Alberta, and ourselves as kind of the implementer. Stu, did you want to give a little bit of detail on what exactly ABHuntLog is or is meant to be?
Sure. Yeah, I can give a little bit of history on how it came to be. It's been in the works for a long time. So traditionally, harvestable species in Alberta have been managed based on information collected through aerial surveys. And these aerial surveys collect data that is used to assess things like population trend and size and demographics, herd composition, those kinds of things. But those are really expensive and intermittent. And so there's always a need to look for other options, and so that hunting license allocations aren't set based on historical population data. So for a long time, there's been a need for an efficient and economical way to collect information on wildlife populations in Alberta. And so back in 2012, Dr. Mark Boyce from the University of Alberta initiated something called the Alberta Moose Hunter Survey app. And that collected moose observations from hunters between 2012 and 2016. So it operated over 5 years. And it was a really great start. However, it also struggled with hunter retention and data quality. So in 2017, ACA took over the administration of the app, and we decided fairly early on that a bit of a revamp was necessary and would make it more effective. So and I guess right around that time, the Minister of AEP, Alberta Environment and Parks, decided that they wanted to engage the public more in science and environmental monitoring. And so that was the perfect push to get the revamp of this moose app developed and out there. So we eventually partnered, as Mark mentioned, with the University of Alberta, their Department of Resource Economics, and iHunter. And we figured that was we were excited about that partnership because that meant we could also tap into a really large existing user base for iHunter. And the U of A already had a data collection project on the ground or going with iHunter. And so we could tap into that relationship there already.
Yeah, that's a very good history. And, I was one of the people that downloaded that original Moose app and used it and put my observations in. Excellent. And then I was also in on some of the trials with the U of A when they started to look at how to track people and what information to collect and what needed to be changed to get to where we are today. So it's, I like to see things come full circle, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And just like the iHunter app, the collection of data is better and better and better and more usable for the biologists. Isn't that the bottom line?
For sure.
Right. Paul, have you got anything to add to that?
Yeah, maybe I'll just sort of add so there's sort of two goals, I guess, to the project ABHuntLog. The first one is sort of the use through the Department of Resource Economics, and they're looking at collecting spatial data to illustrate the economic value and the importance of hunting and scouting to Alberta's economy. And they're also looking at trying to get an understanding of how certain potential policy changes may affect hunting down the road. So let's say, for example, if they're collecting long-term spatial data that shows numerous trips per year to a particular area, and then we have a policy change, potentially, let's say with CWD, how does that then change the spatial use of the landscape by hunters? Do they start moving to different areas, and what are the economic costs of those policy changes? And then from an ACA perspective, we're looking at, collecting the observational data to help supplement the current AUS. And as Sue mentioned, because of the restrictions in finance and manpower, not every WMU for every species is flown. Some of them are very intermittent. So this would be a way of, looking at trends over time for certain species in WMUs to see if we're seeing changes or not.
Yeah, and the AUS is aerial ungulate surveys for those that don't wear, I say plaid shirts because historically biologists wear plaid shirts and like to get in airplanes and fly around, but as Sue mentioned, it is very expensive. So being able to collect this type of information, and would we call this citizen science by having hunters actively involved in this?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so it's a great way to get involved. And who doesn't want to be a weekend biologist? Most people that love the outdoors have a sort of I'll call it a misconstrued conception of what a biologist is, because most of it is now behind a desk and not in an airplane or out in the field. But there's always that dream of being out there and being part of collecting that information and data.
This podcast is produced for Harvest Your Own, a program dedicated to those who want to reconnect with food and health through their experiences outdoors. HarvestYourOwn.ca is a resource for individuals to learn more about hunting and the outdoors. There's information to get you started and ensure that your compass stays pointed in the right direction to be successful. Where's your next meal coming from?
And I'm a good example of that. I've always participated in these things when they came up. Who do you hope is going to pick up on this? What's your main target for this year?
So we are really hoping that all resident hunters and professional outfitters over the age of 16 will participate. That's who is eligible, because really the more data we get, the better. If we can get hunters from all corners of Alberta entering, tracking their trips and entering their observations for all WMUs, that would be great.
And we should just go through how you do that.
Sure.
Back to the app.
Sure.
Mark, you click on the logo in the bottom right-hand corner. You can open up the ABHuntLog, and the first time you do it, there's a couple questions. You fill out a little bit of information on yourself, and then it says, ready to start entering trip number 1. You have no data in here, so you hit the button the next time you go hunting and start collecting data. Is it that simple?
Pretty much. I think the first thing to kind of call out is that everything is opt-in. Like none of this, we don't do any tracking of you or any submissions to the university or to ACA without explicit opt-in. And there's lots of opportunity for you to review what the university is going to do with the data, what the ACA intends to do with the data, and you have a choice, right? You do not have to participate in this. And if you do decide to participate in this, it's quite easy and convenient. Like we're trying to streamline things as much as possible. So once you've gone through that opt-in process and understand what your data is going to be used for, basically every time you launch iHunter, there's a very subtle blue bar that pops up at the bottom of your screen above the toolbar that gives you the opportunity to start tracking or start your trip day tracking. Once you do that, you just track your hunting day, like basically where you're going in your hunt. The app periodically takes some sample data of your location and stores that away and submits that at the end of the trip. At which time you're given the opportunity to submit basically an end of trip day questionnaire that goes through a bunch of questions that the ACA and U of A are interested in, and you fill in that information and submit. Basically, every day that you're out hunting is the ideal. We do prompt you for that. If you haven't submitted your trip day after starting a trip day, like if you haven't submitted your questionnaire, we do prompt you for that the next time that you open iHunter, just to make sure that you do get that data submitted.
Excellent. So it's pretty easy. And, you raise a good question about people. This is an opt-in. This is something you do if you want to help be part of the citizen science movement, collect data, give our wildlife managers more information, and see where hunters are going, all the rest of it. So it is an opt-in. And I believe the U of A, when they put this all together, they passed it through their ethics committee, and it goes through careful scrutiny to make sure that, it doesn't infringe on anybody's rights. This is something that we participate in because we want to, but it's all legit and professional, and there's really I didn't see any concerns myself with putting my data in there.
Yeah, the data protections are pretty stringent, and the ethics review, primarily by the University of Alberta. I was actually quite surprised at how thorough and developed their ethics review process is, and they go over everything and make sure that we're storing the data securely, we're transmitting the data securely, that it can't be used for any other purposes than are explicitly stated in the agreement that people opt into. It is really quite secure, and people shouldn't really have concerns about it, but I understand that people do. There's a level of trust, I think with anything when you're submitting data, and you do have to trust the people that you're working with, or the apps and the software that you're working with. And that's one thing, is that iHunter, we have been doing this for 10 years. People have been trusting us with their data for that time period, and we've never had any sort of data breaches or anything like that, and everything is stored in industry standard secure methods. Everything is secure, and we do take privacy very seriously. So I hopefully people don't have too many concerns, but I know that there are going to be a subset of hunters that aren't going to want to do this, right? That aren't going to want to submit their location data and their survey data for a variety of reasons. But hopefully, Sue says she wants to get 100% of hunters. That would be fantastic, but I think we have to have some realistic goals as well. And I think even if we can get a statistically significant chunk of hunters, like if we can get 10% of hunters in Alberta doing this, I think that still provides us a pretty good overview of how people's travel behaviors might be affected by a big change in policy, or give us at least a year-over-year comparison from this year to next year, and see if the number of sightings of grizzly bears is increasing or decreasing, et cetera. Like there's some very relevant topics that I think that this data can help with, and as long as people are participating, the actual results from this are kind of unlimited, because it can help us with managing basically every species in the province.
And I just want to add that I think it's really important that participants know that Alberta HuntLog does not collect any names or actual locations. Nobody's required to mark the location of a harvest or an observation. Everything is provided. All the data is at a wildlife management unit level, and no names are ever in the database. That everyone's assigned an anonymous identification number when they start. And all of their data is associated with that number as opposed to a name.
Very good. I personally get very excited about being able to participate in stuff like this, and to have talked to other people that find it as a useful tool for themselves to go back and look at it. Like, did I go goose hunting that many times last year or in the spring? And, did I go that far from home? It did seem like it was a pretty short day, but what would motivate people to actually participate in this? If you're not like me, but, get excited about it.
Well, one of the things with the hunter harvest reports that we do need to fill out at the end of every hunting season, it can be somewhat taxing to try to remember how many days you went whitetail hunting versus bear hunting, how many you spotted in those times. But if you are using HuntLog consistently, you're going to have a record of that. So we'll actually populate a dashboard full of your data for all the questionnaire data that you submitted at the end of each trip day. So as long as you're actually using it consistently, you're going to have a really accurate summary of your days out in the field hunting, and you'll be able to fill out those reports a lot more accurately, and taking less time to do so. So I think that's one advantage. I'll maybe let Sue or Paul talk to some of the other advantages.
Yeah, that's one of the key ones. And then so the other one is hunters are basically the eyes on the ground. They're seeing what's out there, so it's a way for them to be heard, for their data through like citizen science to contribute to conservation. And then also, as Mark mentioned, each individual hunter will have a dashboard that summarizes all of the observations that they've submitted. And, you can use that to fill out your mandatory reporting at the end of the hunting season for AEP, as well as you can, keep track of all the species you see. Maybe you're not necessarily hunting moose one year, but you can record all the moose huntings. And when you finally get enough priority points to put in for a draw, you can sort of look back over the last, 5-10 years, hopefully, and sort of see where were you seeing the most moose, and then hopefully it will help guide where you want to put in for future draws.
So it's more than citizen science. It's a personal tool that can be very useful for future planning for your own hunt. And if you're like me, when you have to do your hunt reports at the end of the year, you're always looking for a WMU map. You know, how many days did I spend here and what did I do there? So with iHunter having a dashboard that summarizes that for you, it's pretty useful.
I'd say it's as useful as the effort that you put in. The questionnaires can be somewhat detailed. It can take time to fill them out at the end of each trip, but you know, if you're committed to, even for your own personal benefit, just keeping track of your own hunting information, like it will be very useful for you. But you know, like anything, you get what you put into it. And if you only submit one of these questionnaires every fifth time that you're out, or you just kind of trail off and stop submitting them, it's going to be less and less relevant. So like anything, I think you get what you put in.
Yeah, I think that's important to mention, is that you can track as many trips as you want, and this would include any type of hunting, whether it's waterfowl, upland game, big game, or other. And it can be used throughout the year, correct?
Yeah, we're actually really hoping that users will log their scouting trips throughout the year and provide species observation data to us for year-round. And that way we can, if we get enough data, we can expand our analysis to include counts and demographic information for not only during the hunting season, but year-round. That'd be great.
Right, and that's where non-hunters come in. They can actually use iHunter
for
and
scouting, yeah.
do ABHuntLog and put data in there as well if they so wish.
Absolutely.
So one of the things we should mention is, yeah, we want hunters to use it year-round, but you can only fill out the survey once per day. So for instances where you're going to be hunting, let's say doing a morning hunt and an evening hunt, we built a feature into the app where you can track your log in the morning and then hit pause, kind of close down, and then later on when you go back out, continue tracking and then fill out the survey for that one day.
Yeah, so if you were, say, on a moose hunt and you also had your grouse gun along, is the survey comprehensive enough to ask you about upland birds and then moose as well?
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. The survey the survey sort of developed where you can. One of the first questions is, what are the primary species you're targeting that day? So in that case, you could select moose and upland birds.
I see. So, you know, I'm the eternal optimist, and often my truck is packed to the roof when I head out. I'll have a bow, a shotgun, a rifle, and anything that could occur is covered. So when I get to the questionnaire, someone might raise their eyebrows when they first read mine, because I might cover all the points that are in there. I'm not sure.
Remember, we're never actually reading your individual survey results. Like, things are taken in aggregate. So again, with the privacy, like, everything is done in an anonymized fashion and aggregated, so that anybody that's analyzing data is not looking at individual data for that day. We're looking at things at a much broader level, grouped together with other data.
Yeah. And I've known that for years. I mean, I've got all of my harvests marked as waypoints in my iHunter app, and I've never once thought, well, that's, you know, somebody could get a hold of that. I've always known and felt that it's secure, but it's a good tool for me. It sure shows me patterns of where things show up at certain times of the year and where I focus my efforts in different WMUs, but that will all come out in ABHuntLog.
Yes, and ACA will post an annual report that aggregates the data and summarizes the data across all participants, and that will be posted on our website as well, the ABHuntLog.
This podcast was made possible by Alberta Conservation Association and the Harvest Your Own community. If you're interested in harvesting your own food, there's a comprehensive collection of information to gain insight and knowledge. Head to the field, harvest your own protein, prepare it, and taste the results. HarvestYourOwn.ca is a library of information from getting started and geared up to processing, butchering, and cooking wild game to make the connection between health and food.
The program is being run by Alberta Conservation Association. Where can people go to find out more about ABHuntLog?
Yeah, so we've actually created a page on the ACA website called ABHuntLog.ca. So even if you Google that, it'll take you to the web page, and there's lots of great resources and information there about how to sign up. And, there's a question and answer sort of section on, some of the questions that have already come in. We've sort of provided some sort of mapping of how to get through and navigate and the information we're going to collect. And if you want even additional information, you're more than welcome to contact, myself or Sue as well. And our emails are on the ABHuntLog.ca website.
Yeah, I think we've been pretty comprehensive in terms of describing what the whole program is, how people get involved, how you sign up, how you start, looking at your first trip. Is there anything else that we've maybe overlooked?
I think we've covered it.
Awesome. I do have one question. I've used the log on several occasions where I get 10 kilometers from home and I'm like, oh, I forgot to start my log, and I'll hit the button and start it there. But I don't think that matters if I didn't start it every day from my home or not.
I think it's still useful. Again, at the level of detail that this stuff is being looked at, those total trip lengths and whatnot, like if you miss a few kilometers on either end, that's still it's still better than not getting the data at all. The bulk of the trip is still going to be captured. So, when you do realize that you haven't entered that information or started your trip day, just do it then. Do it when you can, and it still adds to the pool of data.
Right, and I've had other people ask me when to start their trips. Like if you go to set up a moose camp, do you actually start logging your trip the first day when you leave home, or do you actually start when you leave the tent and start hunting?
I would say, based on, from what I understand from the U of A's research question, it would be better to start it when you leave your house, because that is all part of the hunting excursion. Because they're looking at the economics of hunting and scouting, and so they want to know when you leave, how far are you driving to go hunting, and how many days are you out there and spending money on hunting and scouting and hunting related activities.
Right. So that's a good point, because the first day you obviously start from home, and the next 3, 4, 5 days you start from your tent,
right, and
then the last day you'll return back home. So it is all important data from the second you start. So, and you can actually start the app or open the app and start Alberta Hunt Log before you actually drive out of the driveway. I like to do that. It's like my cue when I'm starting to put my gear in the truck in the morning. I have my thermos of coffee. I'm like, oh, I better start the log.
Excellent.
That way you remember it. I'd like to thank all three of you for coming in today. I think this is an excellent program. I would personally encourage as many hunters to participate as possible. We don't often get a chance to be part of wildlife management decisions and data and programs, but here's a big opportunity for us to play an important role that could actually grow. Lots of opportunity to expand hunting and stuff if there's more known about ungulate populations or upland populations or hunter participation, harvest rates, all of that stuff.
Could I ask a question of you guys? What do you think about? There are members of the public that say the opposite, right? They say, well, if I give all my information and the province, the AEP determines that populations are low in an area, they're going to start reducing tags. Like there's lots of doubt from some people that do think that this isn't of benefit to them. Like they don't want information. It's kind of counterintuitive to me, but I've seen this on Facebook, a lot of comments on even the Alberta Hunt Log posts that the ACA has put up, and there are some detractors from it. What would you guys say about that?
I know personally, I'll let some of the biologists speak here as well, but we've always had to provide hunter harvest information. Years ago, the Fish and Game clubs would all be given thousands of phone numbers, and people would receive a personal phone call, and you'd go over things on the phone with a person, how many WMUs you hunted in, what days, what you harvested, what your success rates were. When we went to an online licensing system, we have hunter harvest reports. So I'm not sure why people think that it could be a detriment to them unless you're just always looking for the negative side of things. But personally, I look at it that aerial surveys and collecting data is so expensive that we never get a very clear snapshot of what's going on throughout the province. this gives us a great opportunity to see what's going on a broader base, on a bigger scale, to help make those wildlife management decisions. But I'm not the biologist.
No, I think those are really great
Yeah.
points. Yeah, go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, maybe I'll just sort of add and continue on with Brad's point there is in terms of, right, the AUS surveys are intermittent, so we're hoping our data can fill in some of those gaps. And before a WMU, let's say, is reduced in terms of the number of tags, before it gets too late where it's going to take a long time for that WMU to recover for that species, is maybe we can identify it before it gets to a tipping point. And yeah, they might make changes, but those changes may be short term. And compared to, let's say, an AUS survey that's done every 10 years in the WMU, and now you've got 10 years of a declining population, and you have to recover from there.
So basically, just earlier information is better. Like if we can get a preview of population declines or increases, we can maybe make some choices earlier that are less drastic and less substantial.
I think it's always good to look at it as though your glass is half full, and this could show that the populations are increasing and create more opportunities. So, people automatically say our populations are going to decrease, but a couple mild winters, less moose ticks, we could end up with more moose, more opportunity, more hunts for everyone. Instead of waiting 6 to 8 years, maybe it'll drop, even if it's a year difference. If you could draw it in 5 years, it's a great opportunity for hunters.
Yeah, I'm a data guy and data-driven in a lot of our decisions at iHunter as well. And for me, it's the more information, the better. And, if we have more information, we can make better decisions. And, it doesn't always align with maybe your personal preferences. Like, one hunter might want more moose tags in a particular zone for whatever reasons because they want to hunt that zone. But, looking at it with more data, you might realize that that's not a good idea, and those are things that I would hope that the public is on board with if the data supports it.
Absolutely. I mean, those are the important things in terms of wildlife management, is doing it correctly, because they are always the priority. The animals are the priority. I would like to add too that this isn't a first. They've used these types of apps in Europe before successfully.
Yeah, I think Dr. Mark Boyce from the university, when he initially created the Alberta Moose Hunter Survey app, like the precursor to Alberta HuntLog, that was based on or inspired by successful initiatives in Scandinavia that had been used for a long time, and where they would collect hunter moose observation and create indices that they from that data, and then they would use that to help manage moose populations in Scandinavia.
Right. So I hope for this program that it'll be, the longevity will be there, participation will always increase, and it'll be a model for other jurisdictions, because it isn't just moose. It takes into account everything. And it's a great starting point, and, it's always nice to say that Alberta's a leader, and thank Alberta Conservation Association for picking up this program and making it work. And iHunter for your technology and background in terms of developing apps that are useful and intuitive, is how I'll put it.
Thanks, Brad. And just a note on the as people are using Alberta HuntLog and iHunter in general, we do appreciate feedback. Like if people have suggestions as to how we could streamline Alberta HuntLog a little bit better, or if you have concerns, you can always email either the folks at the ACA or directly to info@iHunterApp.com, and we'll be able to get that information to the right people.
Yeah, that's great. A great point to make, because it's the people using it in the field every day that might see something that's missing or could be changed that could make a big difference in how we collect data. Yeah,
we fully expect to be making adjustments and as we go along, and are really welcome. We really welcome feedback from the people who are out there using it.
So there you go, Hunters of Alberta. Sign up for Alberta HuntLog. Be part of the citizen science movement, and start logging your trips and paying more attention to what you see and what you do in the great outdoors. It's an interesting way to get more out of your trips, to sit back and analyze what a great day you did have, what you saw, what you encountered, what you experienced. It's nice to sit back and reflect on that at the end of the day. And I think a lot of times we we miss that opportunity or overlook it, but we're very fortunate to be in Alberta, where we have plenty of opportunity. People are always worried about losing it, but we have more opportunity than most places in North America. So enjoy the hunting season, be safe, and check out Alberta HuntLog. We hope to inspire people to reconnect with nature and appreciate where your food comes from by harvesting your own. For more information on getting started or to learn specifics about the Field to Fork experience, visit harvestyourown.ca and follow on Facebook and Instagram. Check back often for new material, recipes, and videos that are posted regularly. Please subscribe to Harvest Your Own podcast and take the time to rate and review the show to help us build a dedicated core of passionate hunters as our regular audience. Until next time, embrace the outdoors and all it has to offer. Thanks for joining us.